Hey everybody, I'm Tommy and you're on the boat. Roberta, good to see you. Kristen Melinda, what's happening? Lisa Miller, I'm glad you're here. Listen, this is crazy. You probably saw the thumbnail. We've been talking about this now for a minute. This Derek Lee Cardello Smith appeal and writ of habeas corpus and everything else that he wrote that has come through in the last 7 days has been systematically ignored. I'm an ex-convict that makes YouTube videos, right? I'm not what you would call a journalist, right? By definition, I'm not what you would call a journalist or even a pro. I mean, I'm kind of I'm a guy that brings a convict perspective to things, and sometimes maybe the individual is going somewhere where I may have done some time or whatever. But there are people out there that are covering this story. BJ's coverage of this story is ridiculous. She's a journalist, right? And here's the thing. You know how I found out that BJ covered this story? Somebody sent a comment that said, hey, BJ covered this. I watch BJ's stuff, right? Pretty religiously. She's a good YouTuber. She's talented, right? Rabbit. I watch Rabbit stuff. Rabbit covered this. But I didn't find any of that until people literally told me they did it. And then it's still hard to find. If you type in Cardello Smith, most recent news, you get a 7-month-old video. That doesn't make any sense. That don't make no sense. Most recent news on Cardello Smith. Type it in, see what you get in YouTube. You're going to get a 7-month-old video. You'll have to scroll down for 20 minutes to get to a video that somebody made 5 days ago that's actually relevant to what's going on. Makes a lot of sense, right? People are looking for it and can't find it. What the hell's going on? So if you're just joining me and you're lost as to what I'm talking about, there is an inmate, Derek Lee Cardello Smith. He is incarcerated in Michigan. Kind of odd too. He's got a state and a Fed charge. If anybody's ever done Fed time, the federal government likes to get theirs first. I've never seen a dude. No, doesn't mean it hasn't happened. But I've never seen a guy do his state bit and then have to go finish up in the feds. The feds want you first. That's usually how it goes. But kidnapping is a federal offense. Cardello Smith is in state prison for kidnapping. Kind of odd. It's kind of odd. But there's a lot of shit about this that's really odd. He claims he invested in Bad Boy. Now, some people left the comments and said, why would he need any investment in Bad Boy? Look at all of the money he had from, don't take the man's entire career and go, oh yeah, he got a check written to him for $65 million allegedly or some such from Clive Davis to get this thing really, really gassed up. Put a 2 in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. Right? I'll go back and talk about this if I have to. But the bottom line is this. The bottom line is someone doesn't want us talking about this. And I get it. I completely get it. How do you fix this problem? What does it do to everybody that's ever been convicted for the last 30 years in the state of Michigan? You got to let them all out, right? For real. How do you know? Reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt is someone might have cheated. That gives you reasonable doubt, right? I'm lost. I know none of these people. I thought you were. Okay. Sorry to hear that, Realty. This is, I'm talking about Derek Lee Cardello Smith. This is a man accused of and convicted of rape, right? A bunch of rapes. Sexual assault, kidnapping, they're just the most depraved stuff in the entire world. 7 months ago, this guy was all over YouTube because the story was cool and YouTube liked it. The narrative was great. And the narrative was this guy won a $100 million summary judgment against Diddy because Diddy didn't show up or none of his representatives showed up for a case where this guy was suing Sean Combs for raping him, right, back in the 90s. Allegedly, he says he worked for Diddy as a bartender for 2 years. He was his personal drink mixer. And he claims he was essayed by Sean Combs on multiple occasions. He's been trying, right, to get out of prison for decades. He files appeals that get thrown in the trash. And we know they get thrown in the trash because the cop, right, the cop that actually worked the case signed a sworn affidavit in front of a notary public to make sure that the person who's signing the paper is actually that person. Obviously, a notary can't verify you're telling the truth, but they sure as shit can verify that you are the police officer that they're talking about. The police officer in the affidavit says, "Be happy. I know I'm going to have to testify, and I'm ready to testify that I set up Derek Lee Cardello Smith, that I paid off prosecutors, that I paid off judges at the behest of the prosecutor's office." One of the dirty prosecutors, allegedly, has since become the mayor of Detroit. This isn't a story. How is this not a story? The woman in the prosecutor's office, Suzette, right, Samuel, signed an affidavit saying, "I set this guy up. I was there." People have signed affidavits. The cop said I was there when a hit was ordered. Derek Lee Cardello Smith had a witness that was ready to testify who committed suicide 2 days before the trial, at which point he changed his plea to nolo contendere. I do not contest. Doesn't say you're guilty. He just knew there was no way in hell he was going to win. They just killed his only witness. And they admitted to killing him, by the way. They even talk about who they hired to do it. This isn't a story? Put a 3 in the chat if you think YouTube is burying this. How do you type in the latest news on Cardello Smith and get a 7-month-old video? Now, people will say, well, the algorithm just looks at, this is supposed to be one of the smartest algorithms in the world. It doesn't know I'm looking for news about this guy that's brand new. I made that pretty friggin' clear. I've also reached out to every single massive news platform on earth. I've asked AI why this story isn't getting any traction. AI said, well, because mainstream media has chosen not to cover it. That's AI's response. Mainstream media has chosen not to cover it. Why? Who are they? Right? Because the big red button isn't letting us this get out. It's not. And I'm not talking about my channel. I'm talking about channels that are good at this. The DUI lawyer killed it. I don't know if you've seen the video he did on this, but he killed it. The DUI attorney. Great job on it. Probably not as good as BJ's. BJ killed it. Rabbit also did a great video on this. But you gotta look for it, man. You would think if you typed in Derek Lee Cardello Smith, right, recent news, you'd get Rabbit, or you'd get BJ, or you'd get the DUI attorney. But you're not gonna get any of them. You're not. Not until you scroll down for a half hour, or you type in the video by name. And if you screw one word up, you ain't getting it. This isn't right. I'm sorry, it isn't. And I'll tell you something else. The platform's gone to shit. Does anyone else believe that? Put a 5 in the chat if you have watched YouTube change into something that you're not nearly as cool with as you used to be. Let's talk about the Diddy verse. Right? You know how long we've been doing this now? Honestly, this has been going on a really, really long time now. It's well over a year that everybody's been in on it. And the people that kind of were out in front of it have been doing it now for a very long time. And some names that we probably didn't even know were doing it even longer than that. But there are some rock star names in the Diddy verse, and you know what I'm talking about, right? These are people that can get 5 or 10 grand to come on your channel to talk about Diddy because it's going to bring you a crap load of views. You've never seen any of them on my channel. But I've been on some panels with a few of them. And you know what's crazy? What's the Diddy verse talking about now? I'll give you a hint. It ain't Diddy. Not at all. In fact, find any of the people that I used to be on panels with and go look at their channels and see what they're talking about. They're talking about each other. They're no longer talking about Diddy. Now all they're doing is crapping all over each other. That's all they're doing now, man. This has gotten insane. And YouTube likes it. Make no mistake, YouTube likes it. There are people who shoot videos of their enemies, meaning the person made something on YouTube or whatever that they didn't like or whatever, and they put their addresses up. And then they do call to actions and say stuff like, call the police and report this person for doing this, this, and this. You're going to tell me that falls within community guidelines? Huh? That's cool with community guidelines? Their algorithm isn't smart enough to pick that up, right? What they're doing is making money, massive money, because these people in the Diddyverse will run a 7-hour show yelling at each other. And I've not taken a side in any of this. I don't talk about content creators. And I'm not talking about them now. You might think I am, but I'm not. I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just bummed out. I'm bummed out. Club Shay Shay. Remember that moment? Shannon Sharp has a show that he calls Club Shay Shay. Shannon Sharp's a former football player. Played in Arizona. Really talented guy. Sorry, that's my kitty litter, cleaning the kitty litter box. But he had on Cat Williams. And Cat Williams said 2024, I think, is the year he was actually talking about at the time. He said, all of it's going to come out. Doesn't matter if you Diddy. Doesn't matter if you TD Jakes. Remember this? Remember that video? Well, I want to tell you something. In 2025, the biggest story that I've seen in my lifetime is being buried. I have called every single big news outlet, right? First of all, it's really hard to tip off someone on a story these days. It doesn't work that way anymore. There's no tip line of sorts. You got to send emails. But I have bombarded all of them. The ones I like, the ones I don't like, the ones I hate, all of them. We were, at one time, fighting a common enemy. And then I don't know what happened. Maybe the story got boring, huh? Maybe there wasn't enough Diddy news. Or maybe this platform rewards people who trash other people. Huh? And it's a hell of a lot easier, folks, I promise you. I mean, for real, right? Chasing down things and researching stuff and doing all of that, or being creative enough to just come up with content that you can talk about for 2 hours that will keep an audience from running away while you're doing it is a difficult thing. It is. That's why this is not the job that everybody on planet Earth does for a living. Because wouldn't it be nice to just work from your house and have people send you money? Huh? Just shoot an hour a day or two, get some checks. I mean, jeez, it's like being a rock star, isn't it? It's not really work. But trust me when I tell you, people like Rabbit and BJ and the DUI attorney, they're spending time chasing this stuff down and really researching this stuff. But it's a lot easier just to pick somebody and trash them. Go on there and call them 4-letter words and say that, that people in their family who died didn't die the way they say they did, or just trash each other in the most vile and disgusting ways that you possibly can, because it's so much easier, isn't it? Honest to God, pick a person, right? Valerie Nagy, I just start on her and just start thrashing. I don't need to know her. Because the people will show up and watch. See, this has become sport of sorts. This is what the platform is becoming. I'm not, we didn't do it here, thank God. Thank God. But are you rewarded for it? They're burying this video, people. Put a 3 in the chat if you think that YouTube is going to bury this video. First of all, we don't play anymore, right? So this guy, Derek Lee Cardello Smith, was raped by Diddy. See, we're not doing those stupid word things anymore. Right? Now, how did Derek Lee Cardello Smith get $150 million? And back to the earlier question that I spaced out on. Why would he need $150,000 if Clive Davis? Well, in the early days, we already know from Gene Deal, allegedly, that he asked Anthony Wolf Jones, who allegedly was in the game, so to speak, right? He had less than traditional methods of earning money, as did a lot of people back then, right? There were a lot of people involved that might have been putting weight on the street. But Gene Deal says that Wolf Jones gave Diddy a lot of money. In fact, that was one of their beefs, was how Diddy treated Wolf's mom after Wolf got unalived somehow. Boy, when people get unalived, it always seems to benefit Sean Combs, doesn't it? Now we've got cops and we've got all these people who are swearing out statements that this guy was paying to have people killed. These aren't nut jobs. These are cops. These are prosecuting attorneys. These are people that we have already put faith in. They're listing their bar numbers. But it's not a story. In the early days, I think Sean Combs took money from everybody he could. Remember when I first started doing this stuff, put a deuce in the chat if you remember me saying, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Where did Diddy get all the money to throw the parties in the beginning? Right? You're famous for throwing $1 million parties. How do you throw $1 million party before you're a millionaire? If your claim to fame, right, what are you famous for? For being rich. Well, the money had to come from somewhere, right? If you're famous for throwing $1 million parties, where did the money come from for the $1 million parties? Because if you're going Chirac, and De Leon and, the people from the liquor company, right, over in, it's not, maybe, I mean, sure, in the late days of Diddy throwing his white parties and all of that stuff, sure. Yeah, you had the big liquor presence there. But in the early days, no, he was just throwing parties. And telling people how much they cost, right? We heard that whole thing that was where Jamie Foxx had been talking to him, and he said to him, "This was $1 million for this, Playboy. I'd throw a party for like this for $200. You come out to LA, I throw you the same party for $400 or whatever he said." Or what he meant was he could round up that many women. He even said it in the interview, right? That's what I guess that meant at the time. It's starting to sound like Epstein, says Cindy G. Well, it does, doesn't it? Except this guy seemed to have got his money, according to what's going on now in Michigan, with about 128 guys that put up cash, right? Hold on one second. No. Love you, Scoville. I was sexually assaulted by my first cousin at 8 years old, who's a guy. I'm also a guy. As well, I was abandoned by my mom, then groomed to be addicted to porn by the same guy. Don't have to be drugs. Just happy to find the boat. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you were able to say that out loud. For real. It's, even typing it, it's a very, very big deal when you don't suffer in silence. It's fascinating, the kind of stuff that happens. Am I scared? No. No. I just don't understand why anyone else isn't getting outed and part of the RICO. Kimberly, the RICO case has a bunch of people already listed in it. And right now, Diddy's attorneys, Mark Agnifilo, right, and his team, are trying to get the names released to the public. They know the names. You understand? They know the names. Diddy's defense team, a month away from trial, a month and a half away from trial, they know everything. What they want is for the people to not be able to move forward as Jane Doe's or John Doe's. Why? Because if the whole world knows who they are, then maybe somebody else is messing with them. Maybe it isn't the Diddy camp that's reaching out or harassing them or doing whatever. The court hasn't listed these people, Kimberly, because there has been so much evidence of witness tampering. Everything I'm talking about right now in Michigan is the reason they don't want the names of these people coming out. In these affidavits, we have the names of people they had killed. We got the name of the hitman, right? Vinny, who the prosecuting attorney's office allegedly was hiring to go out and kill people for Diddy. They also, if you look at all these people, all of the people involved in his case went through the prosecutor's office at one time or another. Now, the prosecutors pick these people off and say, all right, we're going to use them. And this has happened so much throughout the history of jurisprudence, it's incredible, right? We even saw it with the justice stuff too, where hookers came through and all of a sudden the judge would turn them into a jester hooker or try to steer them in that direction. They use courtrooms to find people like hitmen. Where do you find criminals? Well, courtrooms are pretty good. And you got a prosecutor that's prosecuted the same person 5 or 6 times. And they go over and say, hey, how would you like to have a sweetheart deal? By the way, that's a quote from one of the affidavits. They gave the rape victims sweetheart deals in other cases that they had going on. I say victims. It's not they weren't victims. They were never raped. The 3 of them all say that it was a lie that they were paid to do it. 40, 300 here, 5, 10 grand here, whatever. But the women were paid and they were terrified, right? The victims in this all parties involved, including the prosecutor, including the cops, including everybody that has signed any kind of an affidavit, all said they feared for their life from Diddy. I believe them. I do. The cop also took $132,000. Those are her words. She was scared. She also took $132,000 in cash. Now, if you're a criminal, that's 200 grand, right? Because you didn't pay any tax on it. I don't think she went down to the government and said, hey, I just found 132 grand I need to pay tax on. What do I owe you? About 40 grand, 45 grand, something like that. 132,000 in tax-free money and a lot of really weird numbers. As this girl starts to talk about all the people she paid off, this judge got $4,300. Right? She peeled $700 on the way there, probably blamed it on Diddy or blamed it on someone else. Those odd numbers are probably the cop just putting a little bit more money in her pocket, right? I'm just talking from a criminal standpoint. That's kind of logical. I called the prosecutor's office in Wayne County, right? Which is where all of these people are from. They will not answer the phone. I've been calling it nonstop every day. As of yet, I've not been able to get anyone to pick up the phone there. Same thing happens when you ring the mayor's office, right? Because the mayor was a prosecutor at the time, and according to sworn affidavits, he was in on this. But how do you approach it, says Maxie. Says, here's the thing, right? How do you approach it? I'll tell you how I approach it. I sent emails to ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, Headline News, Newsmax, The Wire. I sent blasts out to every single news corporation that I could find email tip lines to. I called every single one that had an 800 tip line. I left messages at the mayor's office. I left messages at the prosecutor's office. And in every case, I said, hey, this is going to be a tough story on you. If you'd like to get in front of it, I'll give you an opportunity to tell me your side of it. I'm not looking to even assume that you're guilty, because I'm getting to a point right now where I don't believe anything anymore. Nothing. I'm going to treat Derek Lee Cardello Smith a lot differently than I treated him the first couple of times I talked about him. So the problem becomes this, right? Whoever they are keeping this story from getting heard. Organic traffic should be taking care of this. In my humble opinion, and I'm not very bright, be the first to admit that, especially when it comes to stuff like computers. I don't know anything about this stuff. But it seems to me like organic traffic would be driving this enough where I wouldn't take 10 minutes to try to find a video that Secret Witness did, right? BJ Investigates has the Secret Witness channel. I shouldn't have to search as hard as I am. This should pop up. That's what algorithms do. It should be putting her in front of me. I watch her constantly. Right? I don't miss videos that she does. So if she did a video on this and I'm looking for it, you would think it would find in my feed, wouldn't you? Honestly. It doesn't make any sense. And I don't miss much Rabbit does either, if you want to know the truth, down the rabbit hole. I mean, we kind of all do the same stuff. We certainly peek in on one another. I didn't know she did this. That doesn't make sense. I'm typing in the name Derek Lee Cardello Smith. The people I subscribe to who are doing stories on Derek Lee Cardello Smith don't pop up. When I look up the newest news on him, you think that's real? Put a 2 in the chat if you think that's BS. If you think the big red button doesn't want us talking about this, they'd be happy as hell if I was tearing down a content creator, right? We're not talking about the cases anymore, right? We're not. We're talking about trolls and troll farms and who's out and who's calling the cops to try to get someone swatted. I know a content creator that you know what? That's not my story to tell. But it's gotten pretty friggin' out of control. It's not about what it used to be about. And they love it. The big red button loves it. They'll run ads while you're talking about somebody's kids. Okay? While you're calling someone's kids foul names, they'll run that. They'll run ads during it. And you know the best part of it is they know that when all of this stuff really gets flying, the vast majority of the views aren't some content creator who's getting 75,000 views for trashing another content creator. They won't let that happen. They won't. They control how many views that you're going to get. So they'll let those little channels that don't seem to be able to get enough traction to monetize, they'll let them trash you forever. You think they're not running ads with those people? You think they're not making money on that? They're making more money on that than they can shake a stick at. They don't have to pay these idiots who create hate content for 4 years straight for free. Nah, the big red button loves it. That's why you can have a channel called, ABC. Shut it down and a day later have one called ABC2 or ABC3 or ABC4. Algorithm's too stupid to pick that up, you think? Huh? Does that pass the smell test? They like it. They like it. And I'll tell you what, doesn't bother me either, man. It pays the bills. It does. Pays the bills. Those morons haven't missed a video of mine in 4 years. Honest to God. Start doing the math, it pays off. But it's not helping the storyline much. And if the storyline is important, I mean, who cares if we're talking about, whatever. There are a lot of little communities, right? I feel so bad for Smith. How can you trust anyone in authority or honesty? Most people in this world. Now even platforms are stiffing our rights of free speech. Yeah, you're right. And I'll tell you what, while we're feeling sorry for Derek Lee Cardello Smith, I did a video. I've done many videos on him. And sadly, I think I parroted the narrative quite a bit. But the narrative was, this guy's a con man. Right? No, that one feels. And it looked like it, didn't it? I mean, holy crap, he filed the same lawsuit in 5 counties. That's got to be a hustle, right? That's got to be a hustle. As a convict and as a guy that realizes that people are getting screwed around the clock in this country, why wasn't my first thought, this is a message in a bottle? This is a message in a bottle. He knows there's only one judge, right? You file your appeal with the judge that sentenced you. Hopefully you get around them to the next one. Now, the next one would be what? The appeals court. Well, they bought off that too. Right? In the affidavit, they talk about 5 judges, 6 judges, and they're not all some are at the appellate level, right? Make sure that if the one sneaks by. But Derek Lee Cardello Smith isn't stupid, and he isn't a rapist. He got in there, and he got a paralegal certificate, took a course to become a paralegal, got pretty good at it. And what did he do for the last 28 years? He filed motions every day, right? Every day, calling Sean Combs a rapist, right? No. Nope. He didn't do that. None of this started till Diddy went away. He has filed, by my count, 137 filings or something. For real, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. But he didn't start filing until Diddy got locked in jail. No, I take that back. He started filing when they kicked the doors in. Not when he got sent to jail, but when they kicked the doors in. You know why? Because I think, and this is just an opinion, but at that point, he wasn't scared for his family. He wasn't afraid that Diddy's crew was going to go kill his people because they already killed his friend. The guy that was going to testify for him committed suicide, Epstein style, 2 days before his trial, which is why he changed his plea to no contest. Now, if it were you, you're sitting in jail, and Diddy's out there loving it, renting boats for $1 million a week while you're sitting in there in protective custody because everybody in there wants to kill you, right? You didn't just rape somebody. You raped a bunch of people. You kidnapped them. You tortured them. These crimes were ugly. They didn't happen. By the way, all of the witnesses have signed affidavits saying it didn't happen. All of them. How is he still in jail? They have affidavits from the witnesses who said, we lied. That's new evidence. How are they keeping this man locked up? Because the people who control what you hear, the people that control what you see, have the ability to keep Derek Lee Cardello Smith and 128 of his black brothers incarcerated for the crime of owing Sean Diddy Combs money. Borrowed $150,000 and said to his bartender, who, if you had to maybe go out on a limb, maybe they had a relationship that was a little bit more than bartender, right? I mean, I don't know. Seems odd to have a personal bartender for 2 years, but they obviously had a tight relationship because he had a signed piece of paper that said he was getting 49% of, and instead of paying him, he sodomized him and then had him thrown in prison for a 75-year sentence. So while the world's calling him a con man and saying that he's filing frivolous lawsuits. So I've been through this in the federal system. And when you decide you're going to sue, I've told the story on here before, but they were showering us downstairs where I was in the shoe. And instead of taking us to the shower on the floor that we were on, which is what they're supposed to do, they want to get done fast so they can blow off the rest of their day. So they take our little hallway and they shower us in 3 different floors. That way you can get everybody in at once. But that requires marching 4 people down 2 flights of stairs. And this 300-pound fat dude named Dio fell with handcuffs on. The cop wasn't holding him, and fell into me and rode me like a sled all the way down the stairs until my head jammed up into the wall and I was bruised and beat up and whatever. That was a frivolous lawsuit, by the way. That was deemed a frivolous lawsuit. And then once they say that you're filing frivolous lawsuits, you have to pay in advance for anything you're going to file. That's why Cardello Smith needed that $650 to make sure that this was paid for. If not, he would have had to go back and file in pauperous. I don't have any money. Help me anyway, which you can do, but they make it a lot harder. But see, one of those messages in a bottle landed on the right judge's desk. It did. And it didn't do what he wanted it to do, but it got us talking about it, right? It got us talking about it. And I think it got enough traction to scare the people involved. Picture yourself as the dirtbags in the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. You went to college. You got a law degree. You show up, you're working in there, and you realize that before you ever got there, this city has been filthy, right? Kirkpatrick got 28 years in prison. If I'm wrong on that, somebody can check. I think he's already out, but I think his sentence was 28 years. Kwame Kirkpatrick. There have been so many scandals that have come out of this. This is not new. This is just really egregious and ugly. But you're in that office, and everybody's making money hand over fist because Sean Combs is dropping off bags of money. We talked about this cop got paid $130,000, right? 132 grand to make this guy disappear. But there's 128 others. How much were they getting paid on all? You think that 130 covered 129 men? I don't. But if you're Diddy and you had to put out $5 million, honestly, who cares? I mean, holy hell. You owe Cardello Smith $350 million, according to his contract. How many other people did he promise half of his company to? I mean, that's a theory, right? But they do say in the affidavit that the purpose of these people getting locked up is because they were early investors in Bad Boy. They were early investors in Sean Diddy Combs' record label. YouTube is a troll. Maxie says 128 dirtbags. Yeah, you're watching one though, right? You're watching one. Derek Lee Cardello Smith would be one of those dirtbags too, right? And he's a dirtbag. Why? Well, he's a dirtbag because he's in prison. Mark Agnifalo's response to this was, we're listening to this guy? He's a felon. That was Mark. Well, you look it up. Yeah, he came out and said he's a felon and a rapist. And then I came out and said, he's a felon and a rapist. So did everyone else. And then I jumped onto the con man narrative because it made sense. Why is this guy filing in so many places? That's just not how you do it, right? And he's not dumb. You read the stuff and you realize that, okay, he may not have had the benefit of a classical education, right? There's some misspellings because he doesn't have spell check. He's hammering this stuff out on literally a typewriter, right? That's what we get in prison to write all of our stuff. They don't let you use computers. You're using a typewriter in the law office. He's not stupid, but you can tell that his education probably came later in life, right? He knows the law, but he misspells some words and does stuff like that. But I'm no longer comfortable deeming someone a dirtbag simply because they're incarcerated. I was a dirtbag, and I was in prison for something that I did. I was incarcerated for the crimes that I committed. Now, did they play by the rules? They didn't. In all honesty, the feds, I went to prison for a bank I never went in. But I'm also, I'm also a realist. I went to prison for all the banks they couldn't put me in. All the banks they couldn't catch me on. They figured out a way to catch me on one. So I never felt effed up about being in prison because I knew why I was there. I can't wrap my head around what this guy's been going through. And he has spent more time locked up than he has free. I've said on the other shows that we talked about on this, there's no way to make this guy whole. What would you do? Let's say you just give him Diddy's life. For real. Okay, now you own Bad Boy Records. You can have the house in Florida. You can have the house in LA. He's 53. You stole all of his good years. Trust me, I remember 20, 30, and 40. They're physically, they're a little better than the mid-50s. They stole his life. And he shot it, marriage, kids, grandkids, all of that. Stole it. And he's one of 129. Now, I will say this. Are these 128 guys, did they round them up in church? They probably didn't. These guys probably were making money illegally on the street. They were probably selling drugs. They were probably pimping. Honestly, you got to assume this is dirty money. You got to assume most of these people because it's not, But a person should go to prison for what a person does that's illegal. A person shouldn't go to prison because somebody pays a judge $5,000. $5,000 to swear out an arrest warrant. $5,000. Here's the crazy crap. The cop was so much more expensive than the judge. Huh? Isn't that wild? For real. That's wild, is it not? 5 times more expensive or some crap. No, wait a second. That would be $25,000. Hundreds of times. Hundreds and hundreds. It's disgusting that you can buy a judge for $5,000. Cop will cost you 132. And fear. She was in fear of her family too. It's a weird position to be in. I spent a lot of time thinking about all this from all the angles. You're a cop, you go through the academy, and your boss comes to you and says, hey, I need help on this. That's what she says happened. Her boss was 100% aware of this. So you're a cop and your boss comes and says to you, hey, listen, you know who P. Diddy is? I mean, how does that conversation go down? You know who the rapper is, right? Sean Combs, P. Diddy? Okay. We're going to frame this guy, Derek Lee Cardello Smith, for rape because he invested with Sean Combs. And we're going to pay you 6 figures to put this guy away. And what? Rabior says, no, I didn't become a cop to do this. I don't want to have anything. Well, give her the benefit of the doubt, right? I don't want to have anything to do with this. Well, it's worth about $100,000, right? What's that? This is a long time ago. Call it 2.5, 3 years salary. Let's say the cop says, yeah, I still don't want to do it. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt. It's probably at that point where he says something like, you're going to take the 100, grand. And if you don't, this guy's going to hurt your family. He is a gangster, a real one, and we've been working with him for a while. I mean, how does that pitch go down? How does your boss call you into the office as a cop and tell you you're going to be working for Diddy? Huh? Now, same thing with the prosecutor, right? Kim calls in Suzette, two women that went to law school, right? Have more intimate knowledge of the law, in theory, than just about anybody else out there. No respect for it whatsoever. None. I happen to believe, honestly, that fear had to be a part of this for everybody. And maybe I'm just stupid. Maybe I believe too much in humanity. But I can't wrap my head around, and I was a bank robber, by the way, but I can't wrap my brain around the kind of greed necessary to say, I will destroy a person's life for money. I will intentionally ruin this person's life. I will inflict as much intentional physical and emotional harm on this person as is possible on planet Earth. I will take an innocent human being and convict them of the worst crimes that you could be put in prison for, and then throw away the key and give them a 75-year sentence. I have to, right? I have to, in order to wrap my brain around this. I have to believe that there's a ton of fear involved in this, because the thought that there are that many human beings out there that will just be fine with that guy doing 75 years in jail for enough money to get a 20-year-old used Honda Civic. For real. I'll flush his life down the toilet for $4,300 for a 20-year-old Honda Civic. Johnny says, how many other states have been purchased? Well, you remember that really, it's a very small clip that has resurfaced and gone viral of Sean Combs in an interview back in, I think, 95, 96, somewhere in there, where he said, you'd probably be hearing about him shutting down my parties, probably be hearing about me getting arrested. He didn't say that for no reason. He said that because in either Florida, New York, or California, because those are the places he was throwing his parties, right? In one of those three places, he must have gotten in some trouble. Someone must have filed a lawsuit. The cops must have been involved. Something must have happened, or he wouldn't have said that. You'll all be hearing about it. Where is it? Did we hear about it? Or was it another Michigan? Huh? You can go back 7 months, and you can listen to me talk about friends of Diddy's who allege that, even Gene Deal alleged it, that you can go into police stations that have a picture of Diddy on the wall, up there with all of the other cops. Diddy's Kaiser Sose. For real. And for those who are non-believers in the group, how do you get a cop and a prosecuting attorney to incriminate themselves for murder for hire? They admit to murder for hire. That's the rest of your life in prison, folks. Forget all of the other crap that they did to Derek Lee Cardello Smith. They admit in the affidavits to hiring someone to try to kill him, which didn't work. He ended up killing one of the people that came to get him. They admit to burying that, and in the process, throwing away 5 years of police records. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. How this would take 6 two-hour films to make. Everything that's happening in the Southern District of New York is more important than this. How about that? Law and Crime Network? This doesn't seem like a story to them, apparently. How does a guy inside prison intimidate someone in the prosecuting attorney's office enough to sign an affidavit saying, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of all of this. And she lists it all out. How do you get a cop to do that too? From inside. You think Cardello Smith was threatening these people? No, folks. Take this from a criminal. You get to a point where you break the law, right? When I've told the story a million times on the boat. I'm not a by nature, I'm not a pew gun. I was never a gun guy. And there isn't violence in my jacket. It's not really, I was more of a thief. But the last time I went to prison for gun running. And when my friend Jack came down to see me, I jumped in his car and I happened to be carrying a pistol, which was not something that I normally did. I'm not that kind of a criminal. There was never any reason to carry a pistol. But that day I was carrying one because I was kind of at that point. And what I mean by that is I knew it was over. As a criminal, you know when they're on to you. I promise you do. Now, sometimes you get completely blindsided, but Jack said to me, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Rock, the gun is gonna, what are you doing, dude? You're gonna go back to prison." And my response to him was, I've told the story on here, I said, I'm already done. They just haven't got me yet. They just haven't got me yet. And I promise you, that's where they've been in Michigan. You think they've been sleeping well in Michigan since they kicked in Diddy's door? How about when the judge, right, the cop rather, has to go to the judge, right, to pay her off again because these appeals are coming and these appeals have stapled to them an affidavit from the witness saying, "I lied, I wasn't raped." How many of those can you throw in the trash before you start getting real paranoid? One of the few times we've seen Cardello Smith in the last 25 years. He was talking to a judge, and he said, the cops are throwing away. They're over there right now changing the visitors' logs to get rid of the fact that Diddy had been here. They bragged to me about the fact that they can change any of the records here and all that, and I believe them. I 100% believe them. I really do. I think they've been doing everything they can to clean this thing up, but you know something? We don't live in that world anymore. So good luck. Because Gene Deal outed everybody for going to that prison. That's on video. I've been talking about it for a year. And I said back then, I don't know what happened with Cardello Smith. I assumed the guy was a rapist, to be honest with you. That's what we do, isn't it? But Diddy went to see him, so I knew there was something there, and I did assume he had been raped by Diddy. I assumed that was real, but I assumed that he was also, a victim who victimized other people until the sisters signed an affidavit saying, "No, I was paid." And the other girl, the one that broke first, she was the one that guilt just got to. But as these affidavits are getting stapled to these appeals and these habeas corpus filings, everybody in that Wayne County prosecutor's office has been sleeping like shit. I promise you. They're getting ducks in a row. They're trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do. And when all of this is going on, there's always that one or two people that you're involved with who are the eternal optimists who say to you, "We got nothing to worry about." Huh? Got nothing to worry about. How long have we been doing this? This is a bump in the road. This has happened before. They're not covering the story. This is going to go away. Take a deep breath. We got this. And then something great happens. A couple of the people in that office start looking around at everybody else, right? And old Suzette starts looking at Kim and going, "You know what? I just did what Evich told me to do. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. I was only doing what she told me to do. She runs this office, right? It's her office. I'm just doing what I was told to do. Didn't work at Nuremberg, not going to work here." But they're looking for a lawn to crash onto. Your little boy riding skateboards. Start getting out of control and the board starts doing this when you start looking for that lawn that looks the softest because you're going to fall, right? You're definitely going to eat crap. So you start looking for the softest place that you can land. And that's what old Suzette and Rabior and all of the people that are signing these affidavits, they're looking for a soft place to land. Old Suzette is thinking, if I turn state's evidence and I cook this entire office and I hand over the judges and I hand over everybody, I might get out. I mean, you were involved in a murder for hire. That's life in prison. Not sure. These guys know the legal system too. But this cop and this prosecutor could get him a sweetheart deal. If I were them, though, I'd have a bulletproof vest on. Holy crap. And I hate to sound like that guy, but I'm going to be real surprised. If this story comes to light, someone is going to be drinking a diazepam cocktail and not waking up. There'll be at least one. Something very odd about people whose job it is to maintain the law. When they find out that they got to go do time with those of us they've put away, most of them take themselves out. Saw that. Remember Shawshank Redemption? Remember the warden at the end? Well, that kind of suicide happens. It happens a lot. The idea of having to walk into a prison and knowing every single person in there was somebody you might have put away illegally. Again, people, I'm not the I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed, right? In a lot of ways. But I'll be damned if I can figure out a way that Michigan gets out of this fecal matter storm without literally bringing into question every single person locked up on earth in their state. Everybody that went through your system is suspect of whether or not they're really guilty. Right? If you've done it once, theoretically, it could have been every case. That's a reasonable doubt, is it not? If you knew as a juror that the prosecutor's office had taken money to incarcerate an innocent man, would you convict anybody? Hell no, you wouldn't. Honestly, it almost ends up being a, I don't know, like a meditation thing, like a Zen thing. For real. I can sit for hours and try to think about what happens when this crap storm comes to light. Allegedly, they threw out 5 years of investigative records. What if that's one of your cases? Your Honor, I'm appealing the case of such and such versus such and such. Yeah, we don't have any evidence on that. We don't have it. What do? Do you let that person go? What the hell do you do with all of these incarcerated people? Because I'll tell you something, the idea of letting them all out is terrifying. Most of them are probably guilty. But this is the danger of playing these games. You know, you got your sister gets murdered by some psychopath who's going to end up walking out the door because this cop took $132,000 and paid off a couple of judges at $5,000 a whack. And now that's going to bring into question cases that were dead to rights. Cases where they had everything, right? Sewed up. Well, how do we know you didn't sew it up? Because you sure as hell had a case against Derek Lee, Cardello Smith, and they never even met the victims. How do you go to sleep at night knowing there's 129 innocent dudes locked up because you got paid? How, in the name of God, do you get to sleep? Max, you have a great day. Thanks for spending some time with us. So one of the questions earlier was, what the hell does a content creator do? Right? Someone actually said, what can you do about it, Tommy, is what they said. As a content creator, what can you do? First of all, first thing you want to do is never put anybody on, you don't want to put anybody on blast. I don't want to ever say, hey, my friend did this, because these days saying someone's a friend of mine usually means that some 70-year-old woman, honestly, who hasn't felt love in decades is going to decide to go after that friend simply because that person likes me. See, we've created a sport out here where these babbling old crones sit in front of computer screens and report people for crimes that didn't take place, because to them it's a sport. Pretty freaking funny. Not funny, haha, sadly. Sorry the link didn't work, but what I found Googling his name, that was really easy to find. Strange for that to be high in my search, honestly. Yeah, and what you find is probably 7 months old, right? Hey, Lisa Trimble, good to see you. You're right, Jeremy Fowler. No soul and no morals. That's how you go to sleep, knowing that you sold a man into captivity. Took away a free man's, oh, God help us, yelling to the rafters, I didn't rape anybody. I never kidnapped anybody. I don't even know these people. I've never even seen these people. Honest to God, he needs to be released. They need to write that man a check, right? With the letter B, right? Instead of the letter M. I mean, you make the guy a billionaire, you still can't make his life right. There's no way to make this man get any kind of justice. Unless, of course, I mean, we could do it, give him Diddy. Seriously, tie the guy to a pole and let him do whatever he wants to him. That's what he's done to him. Do me a huge favor, and I know we're this audience. I'm not talking to you guys. I'm talking to the people who will show up later. Don't assume that everybody that's ever been arrested is a piece of shit. And not everybody in prison is guilty. I was. But not everybody in there is. And it is not hard to make someone look guilty. For real. All you need, right? Think about the Diddy verse. There are people screaming at each other in the Diddy verse and making hate videos and all that. Imagine if we picked one person at random, or one person at random to organize this argument, and then 12 people to make an opinion on which one of these content creators is right. Right? This is a concept. It's kind of how we built our legal system. Problem is, if that person that's supposed to organize it, if they have already picked who the winner is before they walk in the room, you're screwed. There's nothing you can do to change that. We have a system where if the judge is filthy, they can taint the entire process. Hey, Donna, go away if I insulted you. How would that be? Go the hell away if I insulted you. Honest to God, you want to pull an insult out of what I just said, go away. I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to a very particular crone who literally, what am I doing? Go away if I offended you. I'm sorry. I don't have time for this. I really don't. What am I going to do? I'm going to stop caring about a lot of BS. That I'll tell you, with all due respect. I don't have time for it. And I'm leaving this platform to take this story somewhere else because this platform is going to bury it. They don't want the story out. There's no other explanation. Sorry, there's not. And you know what? They're deciding what you look at. It's sad. Valerie Nagy, a crone is not an age. A crone, if you want to look it up, right? You're not a crone. This woman I'm talking about is a crone. Look up the definition. I was making a statement not on an age, on a woman. One who happens to be, preoccupied with the destruction of anything that she comes across that she doesn't like. I don't commit crimes. Right? Send all the cops you want. I may not believe that, but that's fine and dandy. I don't commit crimes anymore. Stopped a hot minute ago. And I'll tell you something. I love it when people say they're offended. You got any idea? God help us. Really sorry for anyone who I offended. I wasn't talking about you. We live in a society today that gets a little too offended a little too easy. I said the other day that I found something retarded, and you would not believe the hell that I caught. I repair watches. You guys probably know that. Where I advance or I retard the watch. Right? When you look at the balance and how you adjust it, you advance it or you retard it. Somehow, we have gotten to a place in this country where every word you freaking say has the potential to hurt somebody's feelings. And you know what? I have no desire to hurt anyone's feelings. It's not my goal. Maybe just assume that, maybe he's not trying to hurt my feelings. Maybe he's talking about somebody else. You I assume, didn't report me to the police for anything stupid, right? By the way, you know what I was reported to the police for? Going to Mexico every week to smuggle drugs back to use as date rape drugs. That's literally what I got reported for. Which is a hoot, right? And this particular crone, right, who isn't in this chat. Here's the good news. Do you know that when you cross the Mexican border, they take a record of that? There's a shocker, huh? They don't just let you walk across the border without any kind of a record. So it didn't take long for them to go and realize that I have been there twice in the last 2 years. So whatever. This platform has become a breeding ground for hate. And everybody, honestly, is looking for a reason. I've told the story. Johnny's told it a million times. We were in someone else's chat, and someone popped in, and they were talking about the guy from Training Day. Help me. It's the Denzel Washington. Somebody brought up the name Denzel Washington, and someone in the chat said, "Please remind me why we hate him." Please remind me why we hate him. I have accidentally participated in the hate game on YouTube. I have. I'm going to really work hard on not doing that in the future. Cindy G, this is such a great question. This is such a great question. Why do people hate? Well, chemically, right? It's so damn close to love that it's worthy of comment. Honestly, it's almost impossible to hate someone that you didn't love at one point. It's a powerful, powerful emotion, and more often than not, it takes the place of the love. So, like I have emails from the haters that make videos about me, without exception. I have emails from every one of them at one time or another saying, "I love you, I love the channel." They were always your biggest fan. Okay? That's why the word fan scares the crap out of me. And if someone ever comes up and says, "Hey, I'm your biggest fan," I usually run like hell, because your biggest fan will be your biggest troll in about 4 days. First time you don't give them enough attention, or you don't answer an email fast enough, or you say something the wrong way, they build you up so they can tear you down, you know? It is negative and damaging for your being. It most assuredly is. It is. Hate is hate's been studied ad nauseum. The freezing of the water stuff is pretty fascinating if you watch what the exposure to the formation of ice crystals and what hate does to it. It's a pretty fascinating thing. I've done a couple of shows on it in the past. Laura Lee Smith, was that at Derek Lee Cardello Smith? I don't know who you were calling a pedophile, but another word that I don't intend to not say anymore. Screw it. Honestly, I am past the point of allowing my words to. I'm not going to censor myself. They want to demonetize it and do all that. They can do that, but I'm not going to self-censor. They'll take care of it. They'll just make sure nobody sees the video. And I'm not talking about me. Again, I'm just a hack. But watch BJ's investigation or her reporting on this on Secret Witness. She killed it. Absolutely killed it. I mean, just did a great, great video. But you really got to find it. You really got to find it. I don't believe for a hot second that channels that I subscribe to who are covering subjects that I am entering into my search bar don't show up, and that's an accident. Can't convince me of that. So tonight at midnight, I am going on a nationally syndicated radio show. I am not going to say the name of the show until later on today, because there will be crones of both genders who will call and tell the people at the station that, you know, I molest sheep or whatever the narrative will be. But I have landed a a segment on a nationally syndicated radio show. The nice thing about that is it's real hard to mess with radio signals. Right before, if you keep checking back here, I'm gonna do a short, and the short is gonna be put up in time for everybody to know the name of the show that I'm going to be going on. In the interim, what I will tell you is it's a late night show, so I'll tell you guys probably after the 7 o'clock show tonight. So if you come by for the Lifeboat this evening, I'll tell you where I'm going to be. But I'm going on a courageous channel. Right? Going on a channel that's courageous. And when this person heard the story, they said, "Well, let's get it here quick." So there's at least one out there. And this is how you hopefully get this to jump the petri dish, right? The friggin' petri dish that YouTube has become. Hear that big red button? You suck. It's been an epic time. Love you all. Thank you, Arabian Bard. 11 months. My goodness. Yeah, the airwaves. Kind of hard to keep us. No, I will not be on Howard Stern. That's a great guess. But I will be here I promise tonight at 7, I'll tell you where I'm going to be. But, and again, guess how I ended up on a nationally syndicated radio show? Because somebody who watches The Boat made that happen. Now, I would never out that person, because then the hate will come to them. But no joke, almost every single time I get a collab, it's because one of you reaches out to somebody and gets it set up. So you know who you are. God bless you, girl. This was a great hookup. I really, really appreciate it. And never know where they're going to come from. But I'm going to tell you guys tonight where we're going to be, and we'll see what happens after we get this, at least 1 million people hear about it that don't have anything to do with the big red button. Maybe they'll all start calling whoever they watch, because I don't know, man. As a criminal, affidavits mean something to me that I think means something different than it means to other people. Love you too, Laura Lee. Thank you. Happy dance for you and the crew member. Yeah, absolutely. Now, if I offended anybody today, I'm not trying to offend anybody ever, but God help us, man. If you know, right? It's like the old joke about the lawyer, right? Goes into the bar, and here's the guy. I won't do that. It's a filthy joke. All right, people, listen. Tonight, I'm going to come by. I'm going to tell you what show we're going to be on. We're going to hop the curb, and we're going to get this story out. Do me a favor, right? Force YouTube. Force them to tell this story. Share this. Share it with people you hate. For real. Get this story out. Right? Go back and do one of the informational ones. Go share BJ Investigate's story. Right? That's a hell of a job on that. Right? Or the DUI guy. Any of them. Honest to God, this ain't a lifeboat pitch. This is please get this story out. If we don't create this story, YouTube will bury it. Make me believe that if I type in, I want the most recent story on Derek Lee Cardello Smith, and I happen, right, to subscribe to 3 channels that have done a recent story on him, how do I get 7-month-old videos, right? 2 minutes worth of scrolling down of those before I can come across. And the first one I come across is Rabbit. And it literally took minutes of scrolling down. Rabbit did a great job on it, by the way, on it. People, this is the biggest story that I've ever seen. Will Spanky be able to record it? I don't know the answer to that. I can tell you that it is. No, I can't tell you anything. It's a very, very, to me, this is a very, very cool thing. And it's, afterwards, I'll tell you a story about it that makes it even cooler. But, Tyne, I'm sure you'll be able to hear it in the UK. The nice thing about these radio shows are that I don't care what radio show it is, there's a version of it online, right? Everybody. So there'll be a way to listen to this, to be sure. So we'll get that knocked up. Do me a favor, people. I would like your thoughts and prayers today for Derek Lee Cardello Smith. I'm not kidding. No Diddy. But I've never, ever wanted to hug a dude more than I wanted to hug Derek Lee Cardello Smith. This guy, this is the most epic screw job that anybody on earth has ever had to endure. Screaming I'm innocent the entire time while nobody listens. All right, people, between now and the next time that I see you, do a little harm reduction, all right? And that time will be tonight, 7:05, here on the Lifeboat. Between now and then, you know what to do.